What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Revival. And today I wanted to talk about something that is not so much gaming related, but more gamer related. More like gamer stigma, and not even necessarily like how other people view gamers, but how some gamers might view themselves. So, like, for instance, growing up, I was terrified of telling people that I was into gaming and like that I loved. Oh my gosh, when I got into JRPGs, especially, even if somebody would say, I'd be like, "Oh, dude, I like Mortal Kombat because of the blood. Yeah, that's cool. So that's what I like. No, I like dragons and magic and swords and stuff." But I was absolutely terrified to tell people about that kind of stuff, and because of that, it ended up like kind of just eating away at me inside. And I'm not saying I didn't have people that I could talk to about it. I did. I had my friend Matt, who I had mentioned on the Frozen North before, along with a few people that I grew up with in Jersey, who I played just some video games with. That like my cousin, I played Secret of Mana with when we were younger, that kind of stuff. But like when I was in school, no way. I would not tell anybody unless it was like GoldenEye or, you know, something like a shooter or something along those lines. Because I was always afraid of what they would think. And once I got out of school, I started working for a retail company, which is where I met Brian and my friend Brandon, who's been on the show a few times as well. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was another guy that worked there named Chris, who I heard talking about World of Warcraft one day. And he was just talking about it like it was nothing to somebody else there. And I was like, dude, quiet down. People are going to hear you, you know, that kind of thing. Like, it was just weird because I had never seen that before. Other than, you know, when I'm alone with a friend of mine in a room or something. Like, at one point I was living with a friend of mine and his wife and his cousin. We all had a house. It was awesome. We had our basement had 4 TVs with 4 Xboxes, and we played Halo 2 all the time and stuff. And we played World of Warcraft and everything. And that's my friend Travis, who is awesome because he is into the same stuff as I am, and he's not shy about who he is or anything like that. And that's something I've always looked up to when it comes to him. His brother too, Philip. And so I hear these guys talking about this stuff, and I don't remember. I couldn't tell you if it was probably one of them that asked me if I played, and I, you know, was kind of like, are they screwing with me or something, you know? Which is, I think about it now, and that's absurd to feel that way. But at the time, I was terrified. I didn't want people to know this side of me because I was afraid of what they might think. And so I just was like, screw it. Yeah, I play a hunter. Blah blah blah. And I didn't know squat about the game, by the way. It was terrible. Just to nerd out a little bit, I was the hunter who would put gems into intellect because it was my lowest stat. And I was like, I gotta get my stats up there. And those of you who play WoW know what I'm talking about. I had no, like, I never grouped with anybody or anything like that. I was max level. Don't ask me how, but it was mainly because I was doing solo stuff and just questing and leaving it at that. Then Chris and I became good buddies, and we started. He actually like introduced me to raiding, running dungeons, and doing all that stuff. And then that's how I met Brandon. That's how I met Brian. We all became kind of WoW buddies, and then obviously that led into talking about other games, and work there was, I mean, the job was a job, so, you know, take it what you want as a retail gig. But because I had these guys who were so open and willing to talk about these things that I had been terrified of my entire life, it made me feel so comfortable and so happy to find people who had the same interests as me. And it kind of woke me up a little bit. Like, since then, I was never really, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm blaming them, but my family, like, they're almost my entire family is big into like sports and golf and stuff. And I played baseball growing up for 6 years, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, but I've always been the gamer in the family, and they all knew it, and they all gave me crap about it. Like, they would talk about, football or wrestling or something like that they were into, and they'd be like, "Oh, JJ can probably thumb wrestle people because the controller," and I'd be like, because I push the buttons on the. Thanks. But I mean, they would give me crap, and I know they didn't mean anything by it and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you hear that day in and day out, and eventually it's kind of like, okay, so I'm just gonna not talk about this stuff at all. So it was good to get that, and I realized at that point, like, who really cares? Like, the only way that I'm ever going to meet more people with the same interests as me is to put myself out there, and just say, like, yeah, I'm totally into this stuff. And since then, every job I've had, people ask me, what I'm into and that kind of stuff. I'm a gamer. I love story-focused gaming. I love to go on grand adventures and use fireballs on ogres and that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's obviously an extreme example, but I mean, it's like, that's, I'm not shy about it as much as I used to be. There's still moments where, I'm not going to go to a professional, like an NFL game or something, and sit in the stands and be like, "Anybody here play Tales of Vesperia?" No, I'm not going to do that. That's a terrible idea. But if I'm just around a group of people and we're just bullshitting or something, yeah, I got no problem saying what I'm into and just letting them know. And that kind of, it really hit me, like, how awful I was to myself in thinking that way when I got into another retail job a few years later. And there was this guy who, we'll just call him Bob. Not his name, obviously, but we'll just say that for the sake of the video. I remember starting there, and like I said, I had no problems at this point telling people what I'm into and that kind of thing. And then anytime I would mention it, they would say, "Oh, you'd like Bob." "Oh, yeah. Oh, Bob's into that kind of stuff." And then kind of like have the he likes that kind of thing attitude, if that makes sense. And I remember trying to talk to the guy a few times, and he'd kind of a little bit here and there and stuff, but he was kind of shy, and it always bugged me that I couldn't reach out to him and connect with him in the same way that the guys at my old retail job had done for me and really brought me out of my shell. But it really, really hit hard when I went to a convention here in Kansas City like a year later. And it's like a Japanese culture, anime, manga type convention. I like to go because sometimes they have stands set up with retro games. And it's good for collectors and that kind of stuff. And but anyway, so one of the panels there was, I went with another friend of mine who worked there, Aaron. Him and I went and we saw one of the panels was to it was basically like a prep course for if you want to go to Japan, and the presenter was going to be talking about like things you should think about bringing, places you should look for to stay, how to get around transit-wise, different sites you could see, that kind of stuff. And so we were like, "Oh, that sounds kind of interesting," because I know Aaron had always wanted to go to Japan, and I was just like, "Oh, sure, you want to go? I'll check it out, whatever." We go in, and we sit down, and the presenter is Bob. And we're like, "Holy crap." So we sit in the front row, and we're, obviously he recognizes us right away. And he doesn't like act weird or anything while he's doing it. He goes through the presentation, and he's going in depth about, he had been there like twice or something, I think, and he was going into detail about like what it took to, what they do with your passport and the transit, the ways he got around by like train and bus and that kind of stuff, and different restaurants he ate at, and like really, really strong presentation, did a great job, which was like, it was so weird to see that because, I knew him from work and he was so timid and shy. And I imagine some of that had to do with the reactions that I got when people would say like, "Oh, you'd probably get along with Bob," and so after the presentation, Aaron and I go up and we talk to him, and we're like, "Hey man, that was really good, like holy crap." And I will never forget the first thing he says to us. He goes, "Hey, can you guys do me a favor and don't tell anybody at work that you saw me here?" And like my heart sank into my toes. Like, I felt so bad for the guy. I was like, dude, like, and the stuff he was doing wasn't even like, to me, that wasn't even like the nerdy stuff, you know? Like, he wasn't talking about like anime or manga or, you know, that magical princesses or anything like that. It was just, he was talking about taking a trip to Japan. And it just blew my mind that he wouldn't want more people to know about this and that he was passionate about it because he did such a great job. And there's an older episode of TFN that I did where I did an intro where I basically like, I was so like amped up from it, and I threw it in the front of an episode as a bumper, kind of just saying like, you're good enough, you don't have to worry about what people think and that kind of stuff. I don't remember which episode it was, but like, I was so angry at the situation that he felt he had to hide that from people. And you know, I was thinking like that could have been me had it not been for Brian and Brandon and Chris and everybody that I worked with at that old retail job. And to this day, that still, I feel terrible about it. And you know, I hope he's doing well. But it's just, it was heartbreaking to see that. So, never ever ever feel like you have to hide who you are. And if people do give you crap about it, screw them. You know, it's not the end of the world. There's always going to be somebody out there with the same views and same interests that you have, which is why the internet is great to find that kind of stuff. So I really hope that that he found some more people that he could relate with and not feel like he has to hide that stuff, because it was seriously, the dude did great. It was amazing. But yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to come in and talk to you about, and I guess that's about it on this one. So I'll see you next week, and keep on gaming.